Hello and welcome, fellow bookworms and film fans. This week's episode is the one that everybody's been asking me for, so here it is, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. The first in 7 episodes I will be doing. They will be littered throughout my YouTube channel. Now, just a heads up, I am a Slytherin, so it might be a bit biased later on. But this beautiful, fantastic book franchise was started in 1997 by J.K. Rowling, and it spanned into a magical film franchise in 2001. Now, we are going to be doing as we normally are. We are going to be scaling it on 5 major things. It's going to be character representation, setting, time and place, book, the plot of the book, basically. Does the film stand in its own right? And of course, how well overall did the film take everything that we love from the book and transcribe it to the silver screen? Now, in the Harry Potter series, there are a lot of characters. As I said, this is not going to be my only Harry Potter episode. I will be looking at the books later on in the episode, in my later series as well. But for this one, I've picked what I think are the key characters. If I've missed anybody, please do comment. So I'll be looking at the Dursley family as a whole, as one whole unit. I'll be looking at Dumbledore, Snape, McGonagall, Hagrid, Quirrell as well. And of course, I'll be looking at Malfoy, Neville, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Can't look at Harry Potter without looking at actual Harry Potter, can you? So we're going to start with the Dursley family. Now, the Dursley family consists of Vernon, Petunia, and Dudley. Now, all 3 are rather odious muggles. They are absolutely loathsome to Harry. It's a wonder that boy survived to the age of 11, to be perfectly honest. Now, Vernon is described as being a rather large, rotund man that likes everything perfectly normal, thank you very much. And you've got Petunia, is described as being sort of like slim, stern, dotes on her son, hates her nephew. Now, we find out later on in the series, it might not be quite hate, in the book series anyway. But for this episode, obviously it's just the first book, and she hated him. Then we've got Dudley. Good old Dudley. He is a spoilt brat, and it's his parents' fault completely. He is horrible. He bullies Harry all the time. He's just not a nice person. He's like the leader of a gang of bullies at his school, and you sort of you can see why he became who he is. It's nature versus nurture, really. So I think that all 3 of them are accurately represented on the screen. You get that feeling from every single one of them. You don't see Dudley's sort of like little leadership gang, but you do see that he is a bully to Harry. Now you've got Dumbledore. He is the head of Hogwarts. He is described as being one of the greatest wizards of all time. You can sort of see him as this tall, intimidating, slim wizard with like long flowing white hair, long flowing beard. He's got little half moon spectacles. He seems to know everything that's going on, and that makes you wonder why he lets Harry, Ron, and Hermione get away with it quite as much as they do, but he's got his reasonings apparently. I think the casting of Richard Harris in the role was absolutely inspiring, and when I watched him I was like, that's my Dumbledore. I'm very happy with that. I will be discussing obviously in the 3rd one when somebody else came in there. So we now come across Snape. Snape, our hook-nosed villain, who you think is rather greasy. He's sort of like, at some points he's described as like a bat, because he's got like this big black cape that he just swoops around the corridors. Everyone would do that. We did that with our graduation gowns. You get a graduation gown, you think you're from Harry Potter. You're swooping around everywhere. It's hard not to. But anyway, so throughout most of the first book and throughout the most of the first film, you are led to believe that he's nefarious, that he's the one that's causing the problems. And fair play to Alan Rickman, he plays it very, very well. Now, I would be very intrigued to see what Tim Roth was like in the role, because he was originally supposed to be Snape, but he was too busy with filming Planet of the Apes. So we ended up with our beautiful Alan Rickman, who, his voice, when he turns around to the kids and he goes, someone will think you're up to something. And he's like eyeballing Harry, being like, because Harry's staring at him, being like, I know you're evil. And he's looking at Harry, being like, you're just a horrible little boy. And he does hate Harry. And that is quite evident in the book and the film. It's slightly different reasons. I think he just doesn't like Harry being a celebrity and what he's come down for. And because of the fact that you think he's nefarious, you think he hates Harry for other reasons. It's not. Harry is a rule breaker as well. So then you've got, and Snape is head of my house. So I've got a little bit in my heart for Snape before I even found the whole character arc. Now you've got McGonagall. McGonagall is head of Gryffindor. That is my husband's house. That has led to some very interesting discussions. Now, she is described as being stern, but she does have a heart of gold. Now, you can see she's very prominent in the book and the film. I think later on in the book series, at one point, she goes, why is it always you three? And that's very, very accurate, because you see that in the book, in the first one, every time she's turning around, it's Harry, Ron and Hermione that seem to always be in trouble. So she doesn't give any leeway or favourability to any students. And this is very evident in the detention scene, which I will be discussing later in the plot. She will praise, but she will punish, and it doesn't matter who you are. So she will punish by taking 50 points off of every single student that was out of bed during the night. But when Harry catches the Remember-All, she does take him onto the Quidditch team rather than expelling him. So it is a case of, although, you know, she is quite stern, she's a very fair teacher and she's a very fair person. And I feel like that was beautifully done. And I see that in the films. You've got Hagrid, a big, lovable, half giant of a man. He is seen as someone who's got a heart of gold, absolute heart of gold. He's seen as someone who he will do anything for those. He loves any kind of, like, if you think it's a monster, for example, Aragog, who we come across in the second book, giant, massive spider. Still can't watch that scene, but again, we'll discuss that later. And so he ends up with a dragon. He's got a three-headed dog. He's got a big wolfhound. He goes into the Forbidden Forest on his own. He's honestly, he loves all creatures. I feel honestly his representation on screen is amazing. I absolutely love how he's represented on screen. I've loved that he's shown as being absent-minded as well, because all of sort of like the key facts that they find out from Hagrid. And his famous line being like, I should not have told you that. No, Hagrid, you shouldn't, but without you, there wouldn't have been any plot progression. So we will allow you to be that absent-minded person. And he always has a special place in my heart. Now you've got, last of the teachers we've got is Quirrell. Now, Quirrell was described as being a brilliant teacher, fantastic at the Defence Against the Dark Arts. And then he goes on his year abroad, and people think he encountered vampires, which is why he came back the way he was. We later find out, of course, it is Voldemort. Now, you see him sort of like as an innocent bystander, and you see him as being a pushover and being a very nervous person because of the fact that you believe that Snape is the one that's doing all of this, that's trying to get the Philosopher's Stone, when in actuality it's Quirrell. Now, my favorite bit, I think he's fantastically portrayed on screen, and my absolute favorite bit is when Harry comes in and sees Quirrell there. And despite the fact that Quirrell's there, and despite the fact that he goes, it was me, Harry still asks, so the broom and you know, and when the troll got let in, and you're like, Harry, you be dumb. Like, he's just admitted it's him, and you still want it to be Snape. But I love that reveal. I mean, I don't know how I felt about it the first time I learned it, because that was, I'm not going to admit how long ago it was, but it wasn't yesterday, that's for sure. So it is a case of, I love that reveal, but Harry, you could have clicked on a little earlier, and especially when he said it was him and you're still querying. But I think Quirrell is portrayed very well. That nervousness to him, that sort of like stuttering, that sort of like you get this feeling that he is the innocent, not the portrayer. Now we come across the students. So we'll come across Malfoy first. Now, he is in my own house, so, but he's not a nice person. He's a slimy human being. He thinks he's better than everybody because he's a pureblood and he's rich. So you've got that. You do come across him earlier in the book. You come across him in Diagon Alley. And he's sort of like this white-haired, pale young kid that seems to think he's better than everybody else. And that's exactly how it's done in the film. You don't like him from the minute you meet him. I mean, I know there's some things that I've watched lately, like for example, You on Netflix, where even though Joe Goldberg is a horrible human being, at points you do sit there and go, "Oh, he just wants love." But in the Harry Potter series, you don't like Malfoy, and this is brilliantly done on the film. They don't try and make him a lovable villain. They make him a horrible person, and it is perfectly portrayed, and I do appreciate how they showed that. Now we come on to Neville. Now Neville is a frightened, slightly pudgy, pimply, clumsy, out of his element young boy. Don't worry, Neville, we know what's coming to you. You long bottom, and you long bottom hard. And not gonna lie, Matthew Lewis, I do love him. I really do. And especially when he was in Bluestone 4-2 as well. And it was a completely different character, and you sit there going, can't believe that sweet little innocent Neville from the first film. But you get this clumsiness, you get this forgetfulness, you get this, he wants to do right by his house, by his friends. He wants to be there for people, and he wants to help them. And you do see this in the film. Now, admittedly, in the book, he is more of a prominent character. In the film, he's sort of like a little side character. He does become more prominent later on, but he isn't as prominent at the beginning of the series. And I do feel like that's not... We would have loved to see more of Neville. Come on, everybody loved Neville. But I think they got his characteristics spot on. So we've come to the big three. We've got Hermione, Ron, and Harry. We'll start with Hermione. Now, Hermione is book smart. She's a know-it-all. She sticks her nose in everywhere. She has to be right for everything. I think everybody knows somebody like that. I hope that people don't think that about me, but who knows? So she starts off despising Ron and Harry, like absolutely despising them. She thinks they're class clowns. She thinks they don't take it seriously. She is right in part, but she becomes their friend after the troll scene, and she becomes a very close friend. What I love most about this is that even when she becomes their friend, it doesn't stop her being book smart and a know-it-all. It doesn't stop any of that. She's still herself. She doesn't then become like a sidelined character. And this is evident in the book, especially when she's worried about the exams rather than the Philosopher's Stone. She doesn't really care about the Philosopher's Stone, not as much as Harry does. So it is a case of like, you do love the fact that she is still who she is, and she's that the whole way through. And I love how she's shown on the screen. I love the fact that she's described as having big bushy hair, and you've got Hermione with big bushy hair. I mean, it's very untamable by the looks of things. But it is fantastically done. Now you've got Ron, who's the first to meet Harry. He's a redhead, slightly scruffy, but hugely lovable person, and he loves his friends and family. Now, he will stand up for his friends. He will follow them anywhere, as evident several times through the book and several times through the film, where even though Harry's going and breaking rules, Ron's right there beside him because he doesn't want his friend to be alone. And that's absolutely admirable, because if I don't know what I would do, I'd probably be like, you go break the rules. I'll chill here and read a book. So it is amazing how the directors have captured his essence in this. Even if it's not him in the detention scene, and again, I will come back to that later within the plot, because that detention scene is the biggest sort of grind for me there. So you get the feel of how much he would do for his friends and families. You get the feel that he would happily break the rules, that he's there, that he's a kind person, and I love it. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely do. So last but not least, Mr. Harry Potter himself. Green-eyed, black bushy-haired, glasses and lightning scar Harry Potter. Now, he says the biggest thing for me was the green eyes, and I'll explain why. Because although the bushy hair, the scar, the glasses, the skinniness, which I'll say in a moment, is perfectly done, it's the fact that every time somebody meets him that knows his parents, they go, you look exactly like your dad, except your mother, you have your mother's eyes. Or something like, except your eyes, you have your mother's eyes. Now, his mother has green eyes. He was described as having green eyes. And it's one of those that every time it's said, I'm sat there going, what would it cost you to put contacts in? Or to, like, in post-work, turn them green? Come on. It is the biggest thing for me. I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't make a massive difference, but every now and then when somebody says that, I'm like, no. So he is described as being very slim as well. Now, in the book, I did imagine him almost skeleton-like. I think that was just my childhood imagination. They cast it very well. He was very slim. He had very oversized clothes as well. And again, it is because of malnourishment. It's a wonder Harry survived to his 11th birthday, to be perfectly honest. He must have been ill with the amount of food he ate at Hogwarts. But he is exactly how I imagined him to be. All the characters that were shown on screen are exactly how I imagined them to be. And I was so very happy for that. Now, there are many other characters that have featured that I haven't discussed. I may discuss later on in other episodes. Now, every single one that I have discussed, I think is spot on. They have missed ones like Peeves. I would have loved to see footage of Rick Mayall as Peeves. Honestly, would have loved to see what he would have done with the role. And the librarian, I only mention her because she does crop up in the book quite a bit. And she's just mysteriously absent. Don't know why. They probably thought there's no point. So that's absolutely fine. But for the characters that they did portray, they portrayed very well. And I will give them a 10 out of 10 for that. Now you've got the setting. The setting of the book is in the early 90s. And it's set primarily at Hogwarts. And you do get Privet Drive as well. And of course, you've got Platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross. Which every time I go to King's Cross, I have to go to Platform 9 3/4. Harry Potter, you have to. So the setting is spot on, 10 out of 10. Absolutely no differences there. Brilliantly done. And obviously you've got the Forbidden Forest as well. So I've got no problems with the setting. But we now come to the plot. This is the crux of it. Okay, now the book starts with the Dursleys living their life, perfectly normal lives. Vernon goes off to work. He sees loads of people in wizard's robes. He hears some mentions of the Potters. He comes back and asks Petunia, what was the name of the nephew and everything like that, because he thinks it might be the same Potters. Obviously, we know it is. And then you come across Dumbledore, Hagrid, and McGonagall leaving Harry on their doorstep. Now, the film doesn't start with that. The film just starts with Hagrid, McGonagall, and Dumbledore leaving Harry on the doorstep. Now, you've also got things like, you see a lot more of his childhood in the book. You see him being bullied more at school. You hear of different things that have happened as well, like when he was running away from the bullies and he ended up on the roof. Things that, like, if you're a wizard and you didn't know you were a wizard, that would have happened. But then you come across Dudley's birthday. So after he's been left on the doorstep, you've got Dudley's birthday. And Dudley, the spoiled brat, she's like 37. But last year, I got 38. And it's just like, well, we'll take you to the zoo, whatever it was. And, we just sat there being like, okay, mate, I'm lucky to get 3 presents. Calm down. But in the film, in the zoo scene, them going out to the zoo, Harry comes with them, but he gets warned no funny business. And that's it. In the book, Dudley's supposed to be going with his friends. Harry's supposed to be staying with Mrs. Fig. Mrs. Fig broke her leg. Nobody else can look after Harry. Dudley throws a full-on temper tantrum, but Harry ends up coming with them. So it's sort of like, it's more of a family thing in the film, but in the book it's more of a, he has to come. There's literally, he doesn't want to be left at home because Petunia thinks he's going to mess up the house. Dudley's probably more likely to do that rather than Harry. Now, in both narratives, you still come across the fact that he talks to the snake, which is the first time we come across Parseltongue, which we later learn that is what it's called. But at that time, we just think he's talking to a snake, which every magical folk does, so that's fine. Now, in the book, the snake escapes and nips at Dudley and his friends' heels. In the film, I must admit, I do like the scene better in the film. I'm sorry, I do. Because Dudley falls into the enclosure, the glass turns up, and he's just like this, stuck in the enclosure, absolutely covered in water, freezing, and it's just, I'm not being, I love that scene, probably better in the film than I do in the book. Not happen often, but that one, it does. So you still see all of that, but then comes the letters. Now, in the film, it's quite a quick process. He gets the first letter, then he nails everything shut, and then he sat there going, and why is Sunday a good day? And it's no post on Sundays. Every Harry Potter fan knows that. Not the case anymore, but back then, no post on Sundays. But then, as he's saying, not one blasted letter, and then a letter comes out and catches him across the moustache. So then the first thing they do is go running off into the middle of the ocean on this house on a rock. The book is more of a slow descent. So at first he moves Harry from under the stairs to the slightly smaller bedroom where all of Dudley's stuff is kept, all of his broken stuff, by the way. Then from there, he then tries to sort of like drill all the holes closed. Then the letters come through the fireplace, catches him across the moustache. I think it cuts his moustache in the book as well. Then they go off to a hotel. The letters still find them at the hotel. So then it's sort of like slowly building, and then he ends up on the house, on the rock, in the middle of the ocean, being like, they will never find us here. Then you come across Hagrid. Hagrid with a flying motorcycle. He can find you absolutely anywhere. So you then have Hagrid. So when Hagrid arrives, he's the one that tells Harry about everything. That he's a wizard, that he'll be going to Hogwarts. But he also, in the book, he reveals how Harry's parents died. He reveals this in the book quite early on. In the film, you don't find out till after they've done the Diagon Alley trip. And then Harry asks, why am I so famous? And that's when Hagrid tells him. So you've got that. In the book, Hagrid stays the night. Harry's sleeping under the coat. They set off in the morning. In the film, it's instantaneous. Literally, as soon as he said it, oh, he's going to Hogwarts. They leave. So it is faster moving in the film, as you'll find out later as well in the Diagon Alley scene. So when they get to London, they go into the Leaky Cauldron, where Harry meets pretty much loads of witches and wizards, all of whom know who he is. Now, again, in the book, he knows why they know who he is, so he's not bothered. In the film, he's a little bit confused. He can't quite figure out why everybody is shaking his hand and saying, oh my God, I can't believe it's Harry Potter. Then you go into Diagon Alley. And when I first, I don't know, as I said, how I feel when I first watched that reveal into Diagon Alley, but I still love it. I still love that piece of music that plays when he walks through, when you see all the magical bits, the cloaks, the hats and everything. I think it's just, it's beautiful. And I want to go. I mean, I have gone. I've been to the Harry Potter Studio Tour twice. I really want to go again. But it is a case of, with Diagon Alley, it is beautifully revealed. Now, it's slightly different in the film as it is in the book. In the book, he comes across Malfoy first in the clothes shop. The film, you don't come across Malfoy until the sorting hat, until they're going to be sorted. In the film as well, they go to Gringotts. He gets these clothes. Hagrid says, I'm going to treat you to a birthday present. Takes him to an owlery, gets him an owl. Then takes him to Ollivander's and gets his wand. In the film, they go to Gringotts still. You get, the package that only Dumbledore and himself know about, which somehow Harry then finds out about. Then he will go off to Hagrid goes off and gets a birthday present for Harry, and Harry goes to Ollivander's on his own, and he doesn't meet Malfoy at this point. So it is slightly done, and then afterwards, as I said, they go back into the Leaky Cauldron in the film, and Harry finally asks, why is he famous? And Hagrid tells him. So that is slightly different there. Now, in the book, he goes back to the Dursleys for the rest of the summer. In the film, straight away, he goes to Hogwarts. And I think it's a bit irresponsible of Hagrid, knowing that Harry didn't know anything about Harry at Hogwarts, to leave him at King's Cross Station unattended, not knowing where platform 9 3/4 is. Come on, Hagrid, be a responsible adult for once. But in the book, it's the Dursleys that drop him off. Both times, however, he does ask somebody, they laugh him off, and then he finds the Weasleys. Now, when he encounters the Weasleys, Mrs. Weasley is kind enough to tell him how to get onto the platform. And then from there, he then ends up meeting Ron. On the train, Ron will come in and sit down. And it's really sweet that that's sort of like how they meet, because it shows that he's quite a nice person. But on the train, you get the confrontation with Malfoy. So this is when Malfoy sort of like, I don't think even Malfoy remembers meeting him in the shop in the book. So he comes in and goes, I'll tell you who the best people to hang out with are, I'll help you learn all of this. And it's like, you're not a nice person. But Harry tells him that. In the film, that confrontation comes on the stairs when they're waiting to be sorted. So in the book, we've already met Malfoy twice. In the film, we haven't met him yet. But we do come across Neville, who's lost his toad, and Hermione, who basically turns around and says, you need to put your clothes on. You know, as I said, know it all, sticks her nose in everyone's business. Now, the time when you first see Hogwarts is the same in the book as it is in the film. The first years go in little boats that go across the lake. Oh, it's absolutely, it is so magical when you see Hogwarts lit up with the sky and then it reflected on the lake, and I want to go there. I can't, I know it's not a real place, but oh, it's so pretty, so pretty. And so that is the same. Now, when sorted in the book, when they're being sorted into houses in the book, it's in alphabetical order, because that's how you do it, right? Right? Wrong. In the film, I think what the directors wanted to do was have your main characters being sorted, but also have a couple of other children in there, just so that they, like, it's not just about the main characters. There's some other people here as well. So I still can't figure out the sorting alphabet, like the sorting order. I can't figure out how they ended up going and being sorted the way they were. Makes no sense. I've just learned to put it under the rug there. Now, the description of the stairs, the ghosts, the passageway, the paintings, like everything that it's supposed to be is beautifully done, and it's beautifully shown on screen. And I think it's such a magical representation, and it's absolutely beautifully done. So I've got nothing in regards to how they present Hogwarts or Hagrid's Heart or the Forbidden Forest in the first film. So both the lessons are pretty much spot on. Even the hatred we get from Snape in the potions towards Harry, you know, the transfiguration, all of that, they're all pretty much spot on. Then you've got the flying lesson. Now, it's another of Harry and Malfoy's confrontations. It's almost exactly the same. Initially, Neville is on the broom for longer and he drops from a higher height in the film. In the book, he's from a lower height and he breaks his arm. Now, in both, obviously, Harry then challenges Malfoy in the air on the brooms, manages to catch the Remember-All, and by doing so, McGonagall sees him and puts him onto the Quidditch team. And he is the youngest Seeker in a century. Now, a slight note, he is told by McGonagall, not by Hermione, that his dad was a Seeker as well. I know it's only a little thing, but it's fine. So, when the characters encounter Fluffy for the first time, in the book, it's Harry and Ron on their way to a wizard duel. Hermione's trying to stop them from going because they'll lose points. She gets locked out of Gryffindor Tower. Neville's on the floor because he's been locked out because he can't remember the password, and all four of them go. Malfoy set them up and got Filch to come out to say that there will be somebody out of bed after hours. They then run and encounter Fluffy, and that's how they meet him. In the film, it's just those three, and they're on the stairs. The stairs change. They run off because they don't want to be caught on same changing stairs again. Filch just happens to be on the same third floor corridor. They run in and they meet Fluffy. Slight difference again, but it is sort of like Neville is more prominent in the book than he is in the film. In regards to the troll encounter, it's pretty much exactly the same. You know, Hermione's in the toilets crying. Harry and Ron, when they find out about the troll, decide to go and get Hermione. Now, the thing that always makes me wonder is, why didn't Hermione just say she'd gone to the toilet or she was in the bathroom? Why did she lie and say that she was going after the troll herself? Because that lost Gryffindor 5 points for no reason. I still don't get it, but that's pretty much exactly the same there. But then the whole reason about detention. Now, I've mentioned this at detention a couple of times, and it's completely different. In the book, it's a slow build. You have the three main characters finding out about Norbit, who's Hagrid's dragon, and one time Malfoy just happens to see them through the window. Now, he keeps a smile on his face as he's trying to think the best time that he can use this knowledge to be the most damaging, okay? Now, this finally comes to fruition when the three manage to convince Hagrid to give the dragon away to Charlie, who's Ron Weasley's brother, in Romania. So they've got a letter in a book saying this is the time and the place that we're going to get rid of the dragon. Now, Ron gets bit by Norbit, so he's in the infirmary. Malfoy comes in to glow, picks up the book because he's pretending that he's come to borrow a book, picks up the book and leaves, but that's the book with the letter in it. So Malfoy then convinces McGonagall that these ones are going to be, like, Harry and Hermione are going to be out of bed after hours because they've got a dragon. Now, they're using the invisibility cloak so they don't get seen. So Malfoy gets dragged away. But then when Harry and Hermione finally get rid of the dragon, they're so happy they got rid of the dragon that they come downstairs without the invisibility cloak. They get captured by Filch. They get taken to McGonagall, and then Neville's in there as well because he was trying to help Harry and Ron because he heard Harry and Hermione because he overheard Malfoy saying that he was going to get them in trouble. So you've then got those four are the ones that go into detention, and they lose 50 points each. They then end up in detention. It's about a month later, because they'd almost forgotten about it. However, in the film, you know, the main three go down to Hagrid's to confront him about the Philosopher's Stone. Ron, Malfoy just happens to be there at the same time, same place, after hours, knowing exactly when they're going to be there, and just happens to see, gets them all in trouble, and then the detention's almost like the next night, which makes no sense to me, but it's fine. So there's that, obviously. Now you then get to sort of like your final parts. So in the forest, Harry comes across Voldemort and Quirrell, as we later find out, as he's drinking unicorn's blood. Now, when he comes back, he explains that he got told by a centaur that by drinking unicorn blood, you live a half-life, a cursed life, a half-life, but it keeps you from dying, basically. So now Harry's convinced that Snape is going to steal the stone. And he's probably going to do it tonight. Because they realise that Hagrid was tricked to telling someone how to tame Fluffy. So they then run off to find Dumbledore. Dumbledore's been sent away to the Ministry of Magic, apparently. And so Harry, Ron and Hermione decide to take it on themselves to go down and do this themselves. Against fully skilled witches and wizards, by the way. Can I just say? Stupid, but it's fine. That's why we've got the book. Now, you've then got... This is very different in regards to when they go down. And I'm going to take these both at different points. So... what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across the book representation first and then the film representation. So the book representation, they come across Fluffy. They use the wooden flute that Harry was given as a present from Hagrid at Christmas. They use it to tame him. They jump into Devil's Snare. Hermione remembers that Devil's Snare doesn't like warm or light and sets a fire, and they escape. They then go into the next room where it's the key challenge. There's 3 brooms, all 3 of them use the brooms to capture a key and go into the next challenge, which is Wizard's Chess. Ron realises that he needs to play across the board. They ask 3 characters to step down. They go on. Ron sacrifices himself. They win the game. They go on to the next challenge, which is a troll, which is already knocked out, so they're absolutely fine. And then they go through to the next challenge, which is the potions challenge. Now, Hermione realises at this point that only Harry can go forward. There's only enough for Harry. So she sends him on his own. She goes back and tries to get Dumbledore. Harry walks in, sees Quirrell, gets the stone, tries to keep Quirrell from getting the stone by blistering his skin using his hands. Now, as he's about to pass out, Dumbledore arrives and saves him. The film version is slightly different, okay? So, the film version, you come across Fluffy, who's being lulled to sleep by a harp that's on autoplay. They jump in. In Devil's Snare, you have to relax to be dropped down. Ron doesn't, so Hermione uses a spell to realise that it will sulk in the sun, releases Ron. There's 1 broom in the next room, and Harry goes and gets the key, and then they get through to the next stage, which is Wizard's Chess. Wizard's Chess is a bit of a bizarre one, because there just happens to be 3 empty spaces for them to be able to play across. Ron again realises that he has to sacrifice himself. They play across. Ron and Hermione stop there, and Harry goes forward. Harry goes forward, gets the Philosopher's Stone from the Mirror of Erised, and from there, he then ends up killing Professor Quirrell by using his hands to basically destroy this person. As he passes out, he then wakes up in the hospital. So again, slightly different. I would have liked to see a couple of extra challenges, but I do understand it was quite a long film. They were trying to keep it so that the children were entertained. Now, again, we're into the final part. Now, this is very slightly different. In the book, everyone visits him in hospital. That's where you get to see the final stories from Dumbledore, Hermione, and Ron. You've got Hagrid, who's in tears because he put him in danger in the first place. So you've got that. Then you've got the fact that Hagrid has bought this photo album that he's called up all of Lily and James's old friends and got loads of photos and created this photo album for Harry. Harry then gets released, goes to the feast. Slytherin should have won the House Cup, okay? Should have won. But Gryffindor gets some last minute points and they win the House Cup. Yeah, whatever. And then the book ends with them going back, being picked up at King's Cross, and saying, we're going to see each other over summer, see you next year. The film ends slightly differently. So it sees Dumbledore visit him in hospital, gives him part of an explanation. Harry still goes to the feast where Gryffindor again steal the house cup. Not bitter. But the film ends with Hagrid saying goodbye, giving him the album there. And then it sort of ends on that famous last line where it's just like, I'm not going home. Not really. Now, there are bits that are completely missing, like the loss of Peeves and the second Quidditch match, plus when Harry and Hermione and Neville in the book lose 150 points for detention. That bit's not missing. What's missing is Harry's full-on hated throughout the next 4 episodes because they were going to win the House Cup and then they're literally in last place because of that. So you don't see that hatred from everybody else. Everybody always seems to love Harry. Now, also a couple of the challenges to get to the stone, as I've mentioned, are missing. Now, I have tried to compare and contrast as best I can. I admit that I will have missed some things. And if there are some things that I have missed that are glaringly obvious, leave in the comments below. I'm happy to talk about it, get a discussion going about if there were bits that you preferred in the film over the book. But again, I'm sorry, I missed it. It's very hard to get every single part in. So for overall plot, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Now, does the film stand in its own right? 100% yes. This is a resounding yes. I absolutely adore the film. Despite the edge of awful acting from the 3 main characters. I mean, they are children. It's fine. It's one that me and my sisters and my brother, we absolutely adored watching. We remember watching it with a bowl of Sainsbury's cheese puffs on VHS. Some children out there won't even know what VHS is. And it's just such a magical film. And honestly, it's one that will just continue to enchant children for years to come. So I'm going to give that a 10 out of 10. Now, as for the final rating, how close is the film truly to the book? As mentioned, the characters and the setting are pretty much spot on. Cannot fault them. But the plot, even though it stays close to the magical feeling of what the book is, it does have so many plot holes. It has so many things it's missing, so many things that it's changed as well. So for this, I'm going to give the final rating as a 5 out of 10. Now, as I've said before, this is my own opinion, of course. I am happy for anyone to have any discussions. Leave it in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything I've said. If there are any film to book adaptations you'd like me to take on, do, again, leave in the comments, send me a message. I will add it to my list to do. Now, join me next week for my review of The Book Thief. And so that'll be my content and narrative around The Book Thief. Don't forget to click subscribe and like so that you can be notified whenever a new video comes out. So until then, have a fantastic week and remember to always keep it contento.